Hello, guys, and welcome to this another episode on Foreach Data Pipeline. In the past episode, I covered how we can perform this high-level data integration using all kind of activities like filter activity. We're using the tool for each activity and so on and so forth. And in the last video, I also demonstrated how we can use the parameterization, which is not too bad. But in this solution, I want to focus on what I really think you need to know, which is how we can use the wildcards to simplify the selection of all our files without having to over-engineer our data orchestration. So enjoy this video, and if you're new to this channel, please click on the subscribe button and toggle on the bell icon to be informed of new videos. I'm going to use the same 40 CSV files used in the previous videos. Basically, we have the 20 CSV files for the orders and 20 CSV files for the customers respectively. Let's take a look at the files in the Lakehouse file store. I'm going to click on this DP700 exam preparation workspace, and I can see this sales prod Lakehouse. And we have this sales folder at the top level, and then we have the region orders customers as a subfolder that contain all the 40 CSV files. So I'm going to give this a click, and then we have this customers1.csv to customers20.csv. When I scroll down to the bottom, we have the orders1 to orders20.csv. So at the bottom right hand corner, we can see we have the 40 files. Now we want to go to the workspace, and then we want to provision a new data pipeline. So I'm going to click on this new item, and then I can see the data pipeline. I'm going to maintain the name, click on create. And once the data pipeline is up and running, I'm going to click on this, and then we can use the Get Metadata similar to what we've done in the past. We want to list all the subfolders and the files within the file store of our Lakehouse using the child items. So I'm going to click on the settings tab, and then for the connection, I want to click on the more option, and in the one lake catalog, I'm going to point to the sales prod Lakehouse. So just give that a click. And then we want to point to the files, that is the root folder of the Lakehouse where all our files are stored. So give this a click, and then for the file path, I'm going to use this browse functionality to browse through the sales folder at the top level, and then we want to point to the region orders customers at the second level, and then we can see all the files. So I'm going to click on OK because we are not interested in selecting any of the files. And for the file format, I'm going to choose the delimited, but this is not really important for now, but I'm just going to use the delimited text. And then for the field list, which is really important, we want to list all the child items as the argument. And at this point, I can click on this preview data, and it's going to give me the sample of one of the files, and that is excellent. I'm going to just close this for now, and then we can use the validate, and we can run this pipeline. So save and run, and you can see this is gathering all my changes, and in a matter of 5 seconds or less, the get metadata should give us a succeeded status, and then we can see all the files returned. All right, so in 5 seconds, we have this succeeded pipeline status. And I'm going to click on output, and then when I click on this to expand, we can see all the files, customers 1, 10, 11, 12. Now, these are not in a specific order, but it contains 40, 20 for the customers and 20 for the orders, which is really important. Now, I'm going to close this file for now, and then we can go ahead and use the Foreach activity to perform iteration across all the list of the files from the folder of this get metadata. So I can see the Foreach here, and we can just move this connect to the Foreach activity. So I'm going to click on this, and then for the settings, we can run this in a sequential order or in parallel, but I'm just going to run this in parallel. So I'm not going to tick this box, and then for the items, I'm going to click on the add dynamic content, and then I want to list all the subfolders and files in the get metadata activity. So click on this, and then we can see this is populated automatically containing the name of the activity, and then we have the output returning the child items. So I think there's an incorrect spelling here. Get rid of this and click on OK. And I can move to the innermost part of the Foreach activity. Now, because we don't want to over-engineer the solution, we want to actually use a little bit of compute as much as possible and achieve the same result, I'm going to use the amazing if conditions activity within this for each activity. So click on this and then we can move this to the top. And I'm going to come to the activities. So basically, we need to write our expression. When you click on this, you can say expression of if condition activity, the value must evaluate to true or false. So I'm going to click on this, and again we want to add a dynamic content. Now in the previous videos I used the add contains to scan through the CSV files that contains orders and customers, but in this case I'm going to use a new function called the start wait function. So I'm going to press the add symbol and use the start wait, and we can say that here. Press the tab key to select, and again this also requires the two arguments similar to the ends wait and the contains functions. And then for the first argument, I'm going to just give this item which is performing, or we are looping through using the for each activity coming from the get metadata list of subfolders, and then we want to return the item name. So I'm going to type in dot name, and then for the second argument or the parameter inside the single quote, we want to pick all the files that start with orders. So I'm going to type in orders, and as I've mentioned, this is case sensitive, so you want to make sure it is actually correct and similar to what we have in the file store. So once this has been sorted, I'm going to click on OK. And that's the expression. So if this expression is true, then we have to use the copy data activity as the case when this is true. So I'm going to click on this pencil, and then we are within the true activities of the if condition of the for each of the pipeline. And then we can use the copy data activity, and I'm just going to call this one copy data for orders, and then for the source, again I'm going to pick the same connection, that is the sales pro lakehouse. So I can see that I click on that, and we want to point to the files root folder. Now for the file path tab, I'm going to maintain the file path, but the goal is to use the wildcard file path. So I'm going to click on this for now, and this allows me to browse through the folders and the subfolder, which I can easily copy later. So I'm going to click on this region orders, and I can see all the files. So again, we're not pick any files, and I can see all the relative parts populated. So I'm going to press Ctrl A to select, Ctrl X to cut, and then I'm going to come to the core part of this video, which is the wildcard file path. Click on that, and I can see this doesn't allow me to browse, and that's why I use that logic instead of having to go back to the lakehouse to copy the relative path. That's the logic I use. So I'm going to come back here and paste, and then we can see this is the subfolder, and then we have the /. Now we want to deal with the orders. So for the orders, we have the orders, and then we have _1.csv, but we want to use the wildcard. So I'm going to get rid of the one and use the question mark, and I'm going to type in .csv because our data file format is .csv. So we want to make sure it ends with .csv, and this is really important because we're using the start wait in our expression of the if conditions activity. So you want to make sure this actually is accurate. So once this is sorted, and of course we can use this perform recursively, but in our case this is not really matter because we have all the files at the second level of the subfolder, but this is not too bad. And then for the file path or the file format, I'm going to specify the delimited text, and as soon as I did that, we can see the preview data is now enabled. So I can click on this for now, and this should give us some data in return. Absolutely cool. So we have all of this data for the 2025, and I'm going to close this file. Now we want to go to the destination, and for the connection I'm going to click on the more option. Now we want to choose the sales prod warehouse, which we're going to be landing all our data. Now because we are working with CSV files, that's in delimited text, the data pipeline allows us to auto create table, but when you're working with JSON or Parquet file format, you have to create your table in your destination warehouse because that's not possible using auto create. So for the CSV files, this is fine, auto create, and I can maintain the same database owner, and let's call this one order since we are treating the oldest files. And that's what we need to do for now. And I can come to the mapping. I can click on import schema just to make sure that everything aligns properly. You can do some renaming of the columns, and you can even choose data types and so on and so forth. But I'm not going to focus on all of that today. I'm going to do all of this in future videos and tell you something you need to know in more detail. So this is now sorted for the source, wildcard, file path, and then for the destination. Now I'm just going to quickly copy this so I can reuse in the false activity. So once this is sorted, I can go outside of the for each, and then I'm back to the if condition. So this is true, and I'm going to click on the false. And again, I want to use the copy data activity, and I can call this one copy data for customers. And then for the source, I'm going to click on the connection, select the same sales prod lake house from the one lake catalog. Oops, I used the wrong thing. No problem. I can cancel this, do that again. And I'm going to use the second one at the bottom because the warehouse has been promoted because I used that not too long. And then I'm going to go to the files again, wildcards. Since I copied the relative path, I can just paste, and I can type in the customers, and I can type in the underscore. So we have customers underscore 1 to 20. So I'm going to use the question mark dot CSV again. Don't forget your extension dot CSV. And I'm going to use the delimited text, and I can click on this preview, and this will give us some customers data in return, telling us that this is actually working as expected. Absolutely brilliant. So I'm going to close this, and we want to come to the destination again. Click on the more option, and I'm going to select the second one at the bottom now because this has now been demoted. The warehouse should be demoted by now to the second place because we're still at the top. Okay, no problem. Click on that, and we can select the auto create, and we want to maintain the same schema, and we want to call this on customers, and that's all we need to do. Again, I can do the mappings and so on and so forth, but that's not really compulsory. So we are almost done. So we've configured the if condition, and then we have the expression, and then when the expression is true, it's going to copy all the oldest files, and when the expression is false, it's going to kick off the copying of all the files, performing the looping from the get metadata using the for each activity. So I'm going to come to the run, and I can click on the validate to check for any errors. I can click OK. So let's click on run, save and run. I'm just going to start gathering all my changes, and I'm going to wait for all of this to run and then continue with this video. All right, this failed. Let's check what happened. I'm going to click on this question mark, and let's say the expression length activity okay, there's something missing here. So I actually deleted the it should be output, not put, so I can see the problem. So let's go ahead and fix that challenge. So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to come to the settings. Sorry, that should be within the for each. Come to the settings, and I can see where the spelling is incorrect. So it should be output dot child item. So I'm going to just go ahead and run again, and this should kick off again, and I'm going to again pause the video, and once this succeed, we can continue. Amazing, the pipeline succeeded, and it took an amazing less than 3 minutes for all of this to complete. Absolutely fantastic compared to the previous two videos whereby it took approximately 30 minutes to process the last video, and the first video I did, it took about 18 minutes, but all of this was done under 3 minutes. Fantastic. Now we can check all the duration, so we can see everything is not more than I'm not even sure whether it's up to 3 minutes. It was really fantastic. And then we can say all the activity status succeeded. We have the get metadata, and then for each activity, so we have the if condition, that is if it is false, the copy data for customers automatically process all the files. And when you scroll down to the bottom, you can also see when the expression is true, you have all the files copied into the warehouse. Excellent. Now let's go ahead and check the warehouse. So I'm going to click on the sales prod warehouse, and I'm just going to give this a click just to make sure everything synchronizes. So click on the DBO, and we can expand the tables. And when I click on the customers, we have all the files. When I click on the orders, we have all the files at the bottom. This is more than 1,000 record in the orders table. And then for the customers, when I come back here, this is more than 1,000 also. Now, the good news about this process is that we are able to not over engineer the solution by using the wildcard, which is really important. Now, I could have used the parameterization, which I did, but that's not going to give you the real solution we're looking for. So I highly encourage you to stick with this in wildcard, at least in this kind of scenario, because it simplifies the whole thing and it saves some cost from using too many activities and spending more than 3 minutes to perform all of this data integration. So I trust you enjoyed this video. If you do, like, comment, share, and follow me for more video because there's a lot to come. Thank you and bye for now. Cheers.